It's a beautiful day here in south central Illinois. Of course, our corn crops are visually protesting that statement with their rolled up leaves from all of the heat and moisture stress that they've been going through the last 3 or 4 weeks here. But who even asked them anyways? Throughout the end of June, we've continued to fight prolonged dry conditions and of course excess heat, especially for our corn crop. Although the plants do not look too happy, I don't think we've really entered the danger zone as of yet for yield loss. We may be looking at a couple percent here and there. I will say that we are rapidly approaching a point of no return in terms of yield loss if we do not receive some alleviation from this heat stress, and we need some rainfalls here pretty bad. Stress in June and during the vegetative process is not always the worst thing, but once you get into July and you start to get into the sexual processes of tasseling, silking, and ear set, you're looking at some pretty tremendous losses if you don't get some more favorable conditions. There is somewhat of a silver lining. The extended forecast, though looking extremely dry, does have a decrease in temperatures. We're going to be in the low 80s, which is much more favorable for our corn. Not to mention that we are still working with a somewhat adequate amount of subsoil moisture. Though when we get into those further growth stages, this corn is going to absolutely suck all of the water out of the ground that remains. Just a marginal chance of rainfall on Sunday. If we miss that, there's nothing as of right now. It is the time of year, though, with the humidity we've had, that something can pop up in the snap of a finger, and I'm really hoping that that's the case at some point in the next 10 days. In all reality, you gotta take the good with the bad. Last year we had an absolutely tremendous corn crop, and of course we somehow lucked into some very supportive grain prices these last couple of months, especially for someone who carries a large amount of their old crop on their balance sheet moving into the summer of the next growing season. Because of that, we are making a few equipment upgrades, and I believe one part of a 3-part plan should be showing up today. It is a tractor. It's going to be replacing one of our planter tractors. Of course, I mentioned in the last video, the Landau vertical till is also going to be going at some point in the near future. And then there's a third upgrade, but I'm not going to spoil all the fun. They all tie in together, though, from a logistical and management side of what we're trying to do moving forward for a matter of efficiency and maximizing yield. Newer equipment is always fun, and it's even better when it's the equipment that you get to run. I've hinted at it numerous times this growing season, but our focus on upgrades for this next season are related to this setup right here, our soybean outfit. What do you think? 8R370, courtesy of Sloan Implement. Unlike when they delivered the field cultivator, they're not taking anything with them. We're going to try and sell one of our planter tractors outright to replace this. Well, why don't we take a look at this new to us tractor. This beautiful tractor that you're looking at right now is a John Deere 8R370, aptly named for its 370 horsepower. Other than just its age, this tractor has a handful of noteworthy upgrades compared to its predecessor on our farm. On the outside, we have independent front suspension, accompanied by a set of front duals to disperse our ground pressure a little bit better as we're going through the field. Not to mention the ultimate cab package, very luxurious on the inside, and of course a built-in 4600 display. And we can't forget to mention the premium LEDs on the outside, which should offer better visibility for longer hours into the night. A few additional notes on the tractor. It's not brand new, but it is new to us. We got it used 2021, has 930 hours on it. It has the E23 Powershift transmission. There's a lot of people going to the IVTs, and I think the IVT is a perfectly good option, especially for grain carts and planters. We just felt more comfortable going with the Powershift, not to mention it gave us the availability with this specific Powershift transmission to go 30 miles an hour down the road, which is about 15% faster than we can normally go. That's a pretty tremendous upgrade, especially when we drive over to a farm that's 35 or 40 miles away. Other than the fancy foot pegs for comfortability when you're in the field, the upgrade on this tractor that I'm actually looking forward to by far and away the most is the independent front suspension. I know from a few tractors that I've demoed in the past that having independent front axles, it's like riding on a cloud compared to riding on a log wagon. I am curious to hear in the comments down below, what are your thoughts on this tractor? Do you think 370 horsepower is enough to maybe pull a bigger planter or something of the sort? Not necessarily that's what we're gonna do with it. All right, that's enough oodling. Tractor, we'll see you later. We gotta go actually work. This is the first time since last summer that we would have had a chance to clean this tractor. Our first use of it would have been in the fall, and we kept something hooked up to it until into December, and by that point it was too cold outside in a wash bay to do any kind of a thorough washing and waxing. Normally I'd feel guilty because I should probably be the one doing it, but I did do about 8 or 9 hours of washing on our tillage implement, and the tractor is slight work compared to that. Land all vertical till is part 2 of our 3-part upgrade. This will probably be leaving the farm sometime in mid to late summer because we are changing to a different tillage implement for this fall. And then of course part 3 hopefully won't come till maybe the end of next winter, if it comes at all, given John Deere's reputation of producing new equipment. No wonder it didn't rain last night. Someone laid my boots over. There we go. Now we're definitely gonna get a rain. You think upgrading John Deere farm equipment is expensive? You should try putting diesel fuel in a 6.6 liter Duramax. What makes it even worse is that I happen to have a lead foot, which is not good for fuel mileage. I think I'm getting about 14 miles to the gallon. That's $10 of diesel fuel I just spilled. I think power washing has done my patriotic aTrippyFarmer hat in. Had to break out the old school green logo. Speaking of new hats, I'm going to pick a couple of people who comment on this video and like it at random to send a new hat to. Make sure you comment down below and smash that like button. Yeah, I basically did the whole thing. The UV index outside right now is a 7, which basically means that I should be inside. It seems to me that the best time to look at your crops is about 7 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock at night. It's a bumper crop at that time, but during the day, it looks miserable. Thankfully, we're pretty much down to the short rows of our summer cleanup. We need to dump the planter, take the plates out, clean out the row units. I'm going to detail the planter tractor, and there's another tractor outside that needs cleaned. Everything else really isn't that pressing, so I think we're going to work on the planter today and see how far we get with that. Just about every tractor is long overdue for a window cleaning. I've neglected some of these windows for far too long. We'll do this in the same place we did the corn planter. Kind of a tight squeeze getting back here. It's about the only use we have for the old feedlot, other than storing junk. Seeing how this is a much simpler device than the corn planter, it should be quicker to clean out, although that may be offset by the 8 extra rows that this has. Doesn't even look like there's seed in this. Is there? Not much. Nice and clean on the inside. Now it's time to clean out the outside. I don't know who let this get so dirty. My job to clean it though. Time to put this beauty away. If you told me it wasn't brand new, I wouldn't believe you. This season we're actually going to completely unhook this planter because this 8285R is going to be sold outright, and that's what that 370R is replacing. Time to wash this beauty off. We think this low-hour 8285R is going to be worth a small fortune compared to what we bought it for about 9 years ago. The tractor market is just absolutely wild, especially with used equipment. We're going to run it over to Dad's shed where the 8R 370 is parked. That way I can fully detail the inside, shop back it out, and clean the windows. Hit the inside with the 8285R with my nice battery-powered Milwaukee shop vac. It's actually extremely convenient. Now I'm going to hit it with the good old John Deere Classic glass cleaner, the best in the business. You can get it at your John Deere dealership. I'm really trying to spruce this thing up if you can't tell. We're going to try and get a pretty penny out of it when we sell it outright. I'm a little disappointed because I really thought being inside, out of the elements, was really going to make my life so much more comfortable. And as a matter of fact, I think I am more sweaty than I would have been if I would have done this outside. Either way, tractor looks good. We're working on the real money maker this morning. Mowing roadsides. Fire the old 7800 up. It collects a lot of grass. This right here is exactly why we've been shutting around about 1 o'clock. These oil roads, when they get hot, you just make a mess. Do a quick walk around and make sure that anything that's already broken is accounted for. That way I can plead my case when I get home and it's falling apart. Mowing is not exactly a lucrative process. If anything, it's like lighting money on fire. Makes fields look good though. We've got a good chunk of mowing to do in a ditch I'm not familiar with, so hopefully we don't break anything. I don't like to brag, but we're actually extremely efficient mowers. We get these roadsides done in no time. They look great while we're at it. If you don't believe me, just look at our gauges. We're going 30.6 miles an hour, and that's radar indicator. So it's got to be right. At just over 30 miles an hour, we should be done in like 20 minutes. Mowing's always a very fast process. Bad news, the air conditioning in the 7800 is not doing the greatest job keeping up. I feel like I'm mowing in a cabless tractor. If you recall out on these 4 new farms over here that I'm mowing at now, we had a lot of stand issues because we planted on that troublesome May 2nd day. Got a heavy rain on it, then it turned off rather hot. We replanted about 100 acres on one field and a couple acres on another, and the rest of it we decided not to replant. Now that I'm out here again, there's a few in-rows that probably had too much traffic that I think might have justified replanting, but I don't think it's the end of the world because the soybeans are really starting to branch out. Hopefully we maximize our photosynthetic area. Worst case scenario, we give up a tiny bit of top end yield by not replanting this. The one major worry I have out here is when we get all these gaps, if we get another good rain on this, which is unlikely, but I would take it, we'll probably see some more water hemp pressure because it does like to germinate all summer. When I came out here 3 or 4 weeks ago and applied Enlist and a grass killer, I decided based on our stand issues to throw in some Dole. Dole should help against some small seeded broadleafs. However, I don't know if we've had the rain to really make it as effective as it should be. Worst case scenario, I have to come out here on the outside of these fields and spray another passive Enlist to beat down any water hemp that's left. The real moral of the story here is know what day is going to be the worst day of the year to plant soybeans and don't choose to plant that day. Of course, you need the power of hindsight to determine that. But that's beside the point. Water hemp, cocklebur, water hemp, maybe some grass, water hemp. We're on the edge of the field here, so typically the sprayer applicators don't get as ambitious next to another person's soybean crop. We really don't know. These could be Extend Flex beans, and we have Enlist beans. We would have hung over, we would have killed them. Oh well, looks decent. All right, back to mowing. There's an art to mowing road signs. You've got to flirt a fine line between mowing over your beans, scalping all the dirt off the top of the ditch, and flipping your tractor. It does do a good job. Look at that ditch behind us. Nice haircut. Since we're out here by the 100-acre field we replanted, I figured I might as well give you an update on this. You can see we've actually got a relatively lush stand of beans out here. That's a combination of the original planted beans that were there, branching out, covering a lot of space. In areas like this, though, you can see the replant beans filling in the gap, which was the goal with coming in here and splicing it at an angle. Obviously, the larger beans here in these rows are the original planted, and splitting across the middle diagonally are the replant beans. Seems like our plan is going accordingly, although we could definitely use a rain on these beans, and pretty much all of our beans right now are in more of a need for rain than our corn is. Just give you guys a quick comparison of the plant progress out here. Here we have an originally planted bean. It is probably on its 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It may be on its 6th or 7th trifoliate, so V7. We're already flowering, so technically you could say it's in its reproductive stages, though soybeans do start flowering really early. Compared to a replant bean right here, that's just unfolding its 2nd trifoliate and working on a 3rd, so V2. These will catch up very quickly. Like I said, though, a rain could make a huge difference out here. You look out across this field sideways, there are some spots that are going to be a little thin until the small beans catch up. Overall, though, I'm actually very satisfied with the condition this field's in. As I mentioned in the other field on the end row, really trying to keep an eye on the amount of late season weed pressure we have out here. I'm more concerned about this field than the counterpart we looked at a second ago, just for the fact that there was a lot more open space for weeds to come through. I did apply Dole to this as well, a residual product. However, I'm not counting on that holding for long enough. I may be coming out here in another 2 or 3 weeks if the plants are not too far along, and topping it off with another round of just Enlist to kill any broadleafs that are kind of out competing them at this point. It is unfortunate that we created inefficiencies out here by not being successful on our first planting attempt. Obviously, there's a whole host of problems associated with that. With all that being said, I am still confident that we should be within 5 to 10% of our top end yield. I'm not saying we're gonna hit those sky high limits, because I think if you don't get it right the first time, that's not gonna happen. If we get the right rains though in August, we can still have great beans. We finally finished mowing our 4 fields. It only took us 2.5 hours. Some light ground corn's not looking too pleased about the dry weather. Practically a pineapple farm out there. The sound of road oil hitting the tractor cab as I go down the country roads informs me that it's time to shut this operation down for the day. It's about 1 o'clock. Just making a mess at this point. Does anyone need some compost for their garden or something? I got plenty to offer you. Just wanted to look at the new edition one more time before the weekend. Yep, it's still a gorgeous John Deere tractor. Anyways, that's going to be it for the video. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment down below if you have any questions. You know I love to talk about farming. Have a great day, everyone. Peace!